Hey friends, looking for some great business content other than right here on Accelerate? Then check out C-Suite TV and watch in-depth interviews with business content for C-suite leaders and entrepreneurs, including an interview with me, your favorite podcast host. And it's all on demand. Watch and get insider secrets on demand by going to csuitetv.com. That's c-suitetv.com. Business insights on demand. Okay, let's do the show. It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 473 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record where I hold in-depth conversations with today's leading experts in sales, marketing, and leadership 6 days a week. Now, before I jump into the show, I want to ask you, did you know that studies have found that a cost of a bad sales hire is 4 to 7 times the annual salary of the position? That's a big ouch. I mean, if you're a sales leader, you can't afford this. You can't afford to make a bad hire. In fact, nobody can. So to help you, I've created a playbook that helps you develop a process to hire the right sales candidates for your company. That's called How to Hire a Winning Sales Team. That's free. Just go to accelerate.fm/winning to download How to Hire a Winning Sales Team. Again, that's accelerate.fm/winning to get your free copy today. So joining me on Accelerate is Stephen Benson, CEO of BadgerMapping.com. Now, with all the noise being made about inside sales these days, you'd almost be forgiven for forgetting that the vast majority of sales professionals are still out in the field, meeting customers every day, face-to-face, calling on customers, driving to and from calls. And so being able to plan calls in an orderly fashion to optimize your time and your productivity is really key. And that's what Badger Mapping helps with. It's an app for route planning, scheduling to help outside sales reps save up to 10 hours every week in their busy work so they can focus on selling more. So we're going to talk about outside sales, field sales today with Steve Benson. Stephen, welcome to Accelerate.
Hi, Andy. Really excited to be here.
Well, good. Well, glad to have you, a fellow Badger. Both of us from Wisconsin. Right. That's right. Actually, we have our paths crossed in several instances in the past, I think. Though I think you were lagging behind me, but you're, I guess, following the trail that I'd forged from Wisconsin to California. So,
that's right.
Yeah. Packer fans, both of us.
Absolutely.
All right. So, this would sort of come to a surprise, I think, for many who have listened to this show or read anything about sales. But, there's still a lot of outside sales reps out there. You'd think people would be forgiven me for forgetting that there actually are outside sales reps, and the whole world hasn't gone inside.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's industry by industry, and in software, especially SaaS software, given its relative inexpense to traditional software and just the way it goes to market, commonly goes to market with inside sales, but tons and tons of companies in economies around the world go to market with outside sales, and they will continue to. I believe a lot of people. You've heard people say, "Oh, outside sales is dead; it's being replaced," but it's really not. It's going very strong, and I think it'll be here for a long time. A company can go to market over the internet. A company can go to market with inside salespeople, or it can go to market with outside salespeople, and probably a handful of other ways. But there are just certain products that you need. The only way to sell them, or the best way to sell them, and the most competitive way to sell them, is with a strong field sales team that is out pounding the pavement, getting in front of the decision makers, and communicating their message about why their product is the best fit.
Yeah, well, I think even SaaS companies, there's no question that their close rates would be higher if they were out in front of their customers. But as you said, the economics just don't support that type of selling. So
yeah.
If it did, and a company said, okay, well, we're going to go inside. Yeah, I'd love to be the outside sales force competing against them because we'd win a lot.
Absolutely.
There's value to being in front of the customer if your business model can support it.
Absolutely. We've actually seen that. We've seen.
Are they coming to get
you? There's a fire engine going by here. We've seen customers of ours who their competitors have tried to sell over the internet and or sell with inside sales, and if you are actually showing up with with donuts and coffee for meetings, and you know the people. It's just a huge advantage, and people are often willing to pay a bit more for the relationship, which covers the cost of sales. And sometimes your price can be competitive with a field sales team as opposed to an inside team as well, just because you're selling more because you've got the relationship. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was the impetus to start Badger Mapping? I mean, what was the problem you were trying to solve? And it's actually, it was an age-old problem. I'm surprised no one has really solved it before.
Yeah, well, I mean, salespeople, field salespeople have been solving the problem that we solve forever, right? They've always been, if your grandpa was a salesperson, he had maps and he had his customer list or lead lists, and he had. He had a calendar that he kept straight who he was going to be meeting with and when, and then that moved to in the modern era it moved to a computer based calendar.
Don't make me feel dated.
I mean, my sales.
You say the modern era, right?
I mean, I had a Rolodex when I started out where I kept all my information, and then the Palm Pilot came along, and then CRMs came along, and maps also digitized, and went from
Thomas
paper
Brothers.
maps. Yeah, exactly. It went from Thomas Brothers to actually a map point from Microsoft, or Streets and Trips, and then Google Maps, and all these tools kind of have evolved, and all Badger did was we looked at these different things, the maps, the calendar, and the customer list, and said all this data needs to be in the same place. It needs to work together, because salespeople spend a lot of time kind of managing this process of their schedule and their route and who they're going to focus on, and if you're a field salesperson, you just have this extra element of complexity that you don't have if you're an inside salesperson, which is the map. An inside salesperson needs to juggle, the customer data and the schedule, but not the map. It doesn't matter where they are. They could be talking to Australia one minute and England the next. So it's this extra layer of complexity that field salespeople have that can be the difference between success and failure in a sales role. And our goal was when we set out, was to solve this problem. I in terms of where the idea came from, I'm no genius. I happen to be a field salesperson, and one of the products that I was selling when I was at Google was the Google Map. And so I was selling I knew how to use. I understood what Google Maps could do really well, and I was like, because they basically came out with this way, I don't know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, that you can build software on top of Google Maps, and I was selling the tool that would fix a problem that I had, and I knew a lot of other people had, and so I realized that there could be a valuable solution created for this huge swath of people.
Yeah, I mean, route management software to some degree has existed for quite some time. I mean, you have all the route drivers back in the day, like just driving the bakery trucks or the Frito-Lay trucks. They were, in essence, salespeople. They were driving the trucks, but in essence, they were sellers. And they had a route map that they got and a route listing every day, but never really extended much to business salespeople.
Right. And truck routing is a slightly there's a bunch of truck routing companies, and that's a slightly different problem. It looks similar from 5 feet away, but if you actually look at what it's doing, it's different. A trucking company, they might have, we have these 400 things we have to deliver, or we have to deliver the daily bread to these 400 different customers, or whatever it is they're delivering, and we have 15 trucks, and we need the best way to just get to those places in the most efficient way. It doesn't matter when. There's not appointments, and we have to drop this stuff off. It's just we have to use our 15 trucks to deliver to these 400 places in the next 5 hours. And that's a different problem than what a field salesperson has, where it generally matters when they're going to go to a certain place, and it's them efficiently managing their territory, as opposed to you don't take 15 sales reps and reroute all of them on a daily basis.
No.
Based on and have them see everyone at any time, the way you would if you were delivering pastries or something to all the coffee shops.
Well, one of the sort of interesting conceits, I would say, of people involved with inside sales is that selling is simpler when you're in the field, right? That things are so complex now if you're an inside salesperson. And interested in your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's technology has changed the job of inside sales much more than it has changed the job of outside sales. And a lot of technologies, they make things more efficient, but they also add complexity to the inside salesperson's life. I mean, we're a SaaS business, and SaaS, software companies of this nature tend to sell with inside salespeople, and I think because maybe it's just because this is the industry investors know about, the inside sales world. That's what's gotten a lot of investment. But there's a million inside sales tools. One of the bigger ones is called InsideSales.com, actually. But
sure, yeah, no, I'm quite familiar with them.
There's we almost named this company OutsideSales.com, but but I liked the concept of animals, so I thought it was more memorable. But
I think that's interesting. So, your app, you sort of have three primary benefits that you tout. As first is optimizing a route, and we're all about productivity. Time efficiency is I think people really never realize that. Wow, if you're setting up a set of calls, and I think back to my own time in the field, is I could have used something like this because I was, I'm sure, not optimizing my time effectively in order to maximize the number of calls I could make.
Yeah, well, and people have always been doing this, and especially the great salespeople who are in the field, they're just excellent at it, and they're doing it in their mind. But you can't do it well with the human brain can't. It's a really complex math problem, and so it's not something that you can kind of intuit it and kind of take a guess, but you're always leaving value on the table. It's like a accountant not having a calculator. They could do their job, with a chalkboard, and they used to, but it's a lot easier now that there's Excel and QuickBooks and all. I mean, even the calculator changed their lives, but.
I know. Dating myself, I sold some of those early calculators. So what factors are you guys taking into account when you're looking at the route and how you optimize that?
Well, so we have a lot of tools to help we can give you, here is the optimized route, but it's really a part of a bigger workflow. The first thing to do is we help people focus on who they need to focus on. So it's less prescriptive. We give the rep the tools to manage their time better. And so we give the rep the ability to view all their customers and their entire territory in a map, and in 10 seconds filter down to the ones that they want to focus on right now, given what's going on for them. So maybe they say, oh, it would be a good idea is to focus on cross-selling customers that have this characteristic but not that characteristic. Like they're at least this big and they're using this much of this product, but they're not buying any of this product line, for example. Let me focus in on those. Who are those? I want to know who that is. And so
you're running a campaign. You say, I want to sort customers by this. To your point about an upsell, right?
Exactly.
They meet these criteria because they could be good upgrade candidates, and so you can then sort visually on the map. You sort your accounts by that.
And sales reps are constantly doing this, right? They're always thinking about how to better, juggle their territories. So that's really the first thing, is helping them, giving them a tool to figure out who to focus on given the criteria that they set. And it's really useful to be able to set that up in 10 seconds on a map, right? Mm-hmm. Just by tapping a few buttons. So that's the first thing, is who do I focus on? Then, given who I'm focusing on, who do I want to actually see, at a given time, given where I'm going to be already. So, you're from the Bay Area, for example. If you're going to be, out in the East Bay of the Bay Area, mm-hmm. So for 20 miles away from San Francisco, you're going to be out there anyway. Who else do you want to see? And that Badger makes it very easy to see, okay, these are the people that are important who are out there, and you just take your finger and trace the area that's a good, all the people that are kind of on the way, going out that way, and just grab them. We call that the lasso tool. Where you can just like trace on the map and say, okay, grab all these guys, toss them on a route for me. And then we'll optimize that route for you. And so this is all,
just so people know, this is a mobile app.
Yeah, it's a mobile app, and it also works on your computer. But it works on your iPhone or your Android, but iPad. But but the idea there is we've now very easily helped you figure out who do you want to focus on given where you're going to be tomorrow, and then we give you the ability to kind of either set certain times on the schedule, like, oh, I know I got to meet this guy at 2:00, so let me move that to 2:00. Let me make that a set meeting. Let me move I've got to see this guy. If I have time, I'll see this guy. I'll just drop in. So there's ways of like kind of we have a very easy way of kind of giving the rep the ability to in a minute set up their whole day basically. And they've always been doing this. It's just it's a real pain. There's a lot of busy work, and that's really what Badger's all about, is doing busy work in an automated fashion and giving for these field salespeople.
So is there any, once you sort of, let's say, circled using the lasso tool, you circled certain accounts, and maybe you're doing this, can you do it like a week ahead? I mean, what's the planning horizon you can support?
Sure, yeah. We actually find that's a great question. I can tell you used to be in field sales. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of times your days aren't just crystallized instantly. It's like, oh, well, I know I've got to meet this guy in 2 Thursdays from now. I talked to him, I have an appointment with him. And so now let me kind of start filling out that day and going back to it. And all your days kind of have random things you have to do. Mm-hmm. And so with Badger, you can kind of save all these beginnings of routes, and then kind of click through them and see, where will I be on this day? Where will I be on that day? We found that planning a week out and really kind of always thinking about what you're going to be doing for the next week, and every rep would love to do this. It's just such a pain that they often aren't. Like, they know one thing they're going to be doing next Tuesday, but they don't know, it's a week out. They don't know everything they're going to be doing next Tuesday. But people that kind of are planning and setting up set meetings a week in advance, get more meetings, higher quality meetings, and with a better set agenda, and are able to sell more. So we've seen across the board, whether you're selling, beverages or auto parts or whatever the thing is that you're selling, we've found that there's this common thread of people that save more routes out into the future in our product, kind of say they're more successful, and it's a real driver of value for them to kind of give them this planning and routing tool.
So again, back to this idea of lassoing certain accounts in a certain area, again, planning a week out. Do you integrate with any sort of sales tech or MarTech product where you could put those names into a campaign and say, okay, or to a cadence and say, okay, I want to reach out and start scheduling appointments with these people? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so Badger really enhances the CRM system, which is where most people keep their customer data and figure out who they're gonna be focused on. And so what Badger will do, and you don't need a CRM to use Badger, obviously, you can just use it with a spreadsheet of your customer data. But if you have a CRM, what Badger does is click in with the CRM and then display the data from the CRM on the map. So maybe your business intelligence team or your marketing team creates a campaign and says, oh, these are the companies that are A's right now, these are B's, and we want everybody to make sure they visit the A's. This becomes really easy with Badger because they push that out and say, these are the A's. Badger can see that, and then Badger can say, okay, well, the rep can say, okay, just show me the A's in the map. I want to make sure I get all of the A's on a route in the next 3 weeks, and then I'll fill in the B's onto those routes.
But with the A's, can I take a step further and say, okay, I'm going to send them an email. I want to send all the A's an email saying I'll be in your area on Tuesday, February 28th.
So Badger has the ability to send emails right out of Badger,
and
okay. But your CRM often will have like a mail merge concept where you can send an email to everyone at once, which is really nice. Badger does kind of collect activities that you're doing, so a meeting or an email or a phone number or a phone call that you've done with the customer. Badger will capture that data, and it's really nice because the rep's already got it open on his. The capturing of data from the field is often a big pain point that we see. And Badger makes it really easy because they can just use it right on their phone, and they can say, okay, I had a meeting with this guy, and then all the questions that get asked are customized and different for every customer. Obviously, a customer of ours, so it's like, oh well, this company might say, okay, did I meet with the decision maker? Yes, no. Did I discuss the blah 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 product line? Yes, no. Did I get to leave a sample? Yes, no. So they click through those drop downs in 2 seconds. Then that data is all captured, time and date stamped, sent back to the CRM, and that solves this pain point of, oh, we're not. With field sales teams, people are always like the other parts of the organization are always on the sales guy's case for not collecting all the data when they're in the field. And the sales guy's like, dude, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I can't pull over at a Starbucks and VPN into the CRM to upload this data. But with Badger, because Badger's already connected with the CRM, we just send the data into the CRM. Right from this interface that they're already kind of routing themselves from point B to point C already, and so we make that a very easy process for everyone. So the company gets the data that they wanted, and the rep gets people off their case.
Interesting. And so from a management perspective, then does Badger, if you're a manager, you want to know where sales rep A is, you can log in and find out?
We don't track the rep, meaning, right now they are at the corner of 5th and Lawton. There's already a million ways to do that, and that's we philosophically don't think that that's kind of the value proposition of being able to really track the rep. If you want to do that, just turn on your sharing location on your iPhone and you can see them. But it's the data that the rep is entering into their phone about the meetings that they're doing that gets sent back to the CRM or to the company. And if a company doesn't have a CRM, then we actually have some pretty nice reporting capabilities that we'll send all this data back, so that even if you don't have a CRM and you're kind of you still can now get all this data and start doing things with it. You can see what's happening out in the field if you're a manager, so we have a bunch of tools for managers that really make. It's not about micromanage. We don't enable micromanagement. The goal is to take away the need to be micromanaging. The goal is to say, well, we don't need to kind of be checking up on you and writing on your case, right? Because we can see that there's always this big. There's often kind of a suspicion of, what are the reps doing in the field really? And with Badger, there's no question. They're like, I can see exactly that these are the meetings that occurred. This is fantastic, and all the data is getting sent back. So it becomes less about, are you doing things? And it shifts the conversation from the manager kind of needing to micromanage and check, are you doing things? And it shifts the conversation to, I see you met with John Miller on Tuesday of this week. How did that mean? And these are the notes from it. I saw those were interesting. I was just scanning through your whole week here. What happened in that meeting? Do you think you got a shot at that deal? Like that, it shifts the conversation more to that versus, were you working on Tuesday?
I wasn't really referring to that per se. I mean, but you're right. I mean, there's always this curiosity of people in the field, fairly or not, are they working? And I guess sort of a question is so what other aspect of Badger you find enables managers to really sort of gauge productivity of the people?
So the key thing that Badger does to help people be more productive is help them get. I mean, the measurable things are, most companies are kind of tracking mileage. People that are using Badger tend to have their mileage, when they put Badger in place, the miles that they're driving drops because they're just driving more efficient routes. They tighten their drive time basically. They're getting this. They tighten their drive time, but then the other measurable metric is they get more meetings. Harder to measure, but if you actually have things in place like percentage of A accounts being met with,
sure,
you'll see those types of metrics go up too if you're tracking things like that. So it's less miles driven, more meetings, and the meetings are more focused on the people that the company would and the rep would want them to be focused on.
Okay. I mean, to me, you're sort of an interesting case. So, without digressing too much, but I mean, I was wondering what it was like to pitch to investors. Is that, yeah, we're a SaaS play, but we've got this field sales application, and because oftentimes investors these days, at least, you don't have to paint them all with the same brush in the valley, but pretty hostile to companies that need to fund field sales forces. So I thought that was an interesting play.
Yeah, well, they don't. I mean, I'd say that the vast majority of VCs would, I mean, and I don't want to put words in their mouths or anything, but I feel like they wouldn't like it if a SaaS company was like, oh, we're going to have a field sales team, and that they've. I think that a lot of them have seen companies have expensive sales forces, and that really be a big cost to the business. It's hard to.
Well, I was speaking more to their conviction about the fact that the need for a field sales force is, in many of their minds, is going away. Therefore, what do they see as a long-term future and investment in a company that's supporting field sales? Yeah,
well, for the investors that we talked with, I mean, I would know if I would know at an investor meeting pretty quickly if they were like, so what is field sales again? Does anyone still do that? And it's like, yeah, have you been anywhere out of the valley ever? Because
exactly
in this industry,
right
in the software industry, yes, field sales is not the way that people go to market in general. However, med device, pharmaceutical, these areas of the economy that are actually far, far larger, this is the way they go to market. Whether you're selling, I mean, I've seen people that sell cans of tomatoes to restaurants. You have a field sales team, and beer getting sold to bars. I mean, so many things in the economy pass through the hands of field salespeople. But yeah, you're totally right. I did get in some funny conversations where you spend half the time being like, no, this really does exist. And they're like, I've never seen that happen. I feel like every time I've seen that happen, it's just killed the company. And you're like, well, yes, it's hard to grow a small SaaS company with a field sales team because of the expense of it. But that's just this one industry that the
vast majority of sales professionals today are still field sales reps. So it's as you said, that balance is the balance is changing, but the majority aren't going to become inside sales anytime soon. So, at least in my mind. So,
it's actually a really interesting thought. In terms of what jobs are safe in the future, for example, there's a lot of things that are outsourceable or automatable or could be done by a robot or will go overseas, but there are jobs like being a field salesperson that will not. I mean, there some of those historically field sales jobs will become inside sales jobs, or the way that industry goes to market will become over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of field sales jobs will be here in 25 years, which, there's lots of other industries that you could argue, you could probably, use AI software to automate that, or you could build that with a robot, or you could do that from Pakistan. There's a lot of jobs that'll be under pressure, and I don't think that field sales will be one of them.
Yeah, well, I think perhaps somewhat ironically is that the segment of the sales profession that perhaps is under the biggest threat of being automated is actually inside sales. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, ironically again. So, our last question is, so on this topic, so when you do talk to your clients, sort of to the point you were just making, what are they telling you about the future of their outside sales teams? How do they see it evolving?
Oh, I mean, I would say the vast majority of our customers, no one's like, oh, we're trying to get rid of the field sales team to switch this to make it to make it an inside team. Like there's not like a transition happening across our companies that I talk to, and sales managers that I talk to. I wouldn't say there's any kind of trending. Oh, we're getting rid of this. It's quite the. I mean, it is the way they do it, and the way that I don't see them changing that at all. Like it remains like to most of them it would be incomprehensible. They'd be like, no, of course we can't do that. Oh yeah, you're right. The CFO would love us to fire these 100 guys and just sell this stuff online and save all their salaries. But guess what? We wouldn't sell anything. so
Got it.
I don't see any trend of that going away at all.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Steve, we're going to come to sort of the final part of the show. I got some standard questions I ask all my guests, and sort of rapid fire questions. You can give me one-word answers or elaborate if you wish, but just four of them real quickly. So the first one is, when you, Steve Benson, are out selling, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
What's my most powerful sales attribute? I'd say that the most important thing I do is I view myself as an educator more than anything else. And I'm not, talking. I'm not doing the early calls, but I'm often. I spend a lot of time talking to customers and selling, and that's my background and kind of what I feel most comfortable doing in the world. So that I end up playing that role a lot, as jumping on deals and helping reps unstick things. And I'd say I view myself more than anything as an educator of my sales team and of my customers, and by kind of approaching it from that perspective, I think is my most powerful attribute. Okay,
who's your sales role model?
My sales role model. I've had a ton of role models over the years. I try not to learn things the hard way. I try to learn from people that are more talented than I am. Over the years, coworkers that I had. I worked at IBM and Autonomy, which got bought by HP, and at Google, and all those sales organizations had some real strength to them and really deep benches. And I'd say most of my role models were guys that were senior in the team, on those different teams, and managers. I had some great managers over the years that and just watching the way. There's probably 5 or 6 of them that jump out to me. They're not like famous authors of sales or anything. They're just guys that I just learned from and mimicked.
Got it. Yeah, it's very common. So next to last question, what's one book you'd recommend every salesperson read?
One book. For sales specifically, or just in general, that I think is a good thing for.
Yeah, in general.
Let's see. The one that I've been reading a lot lately is the I always forget the name of it. I don't love the name of the. Let me look it up here. I always forget this name for some reason. It's like something. There's disaster. Oh, From Impossible to Inevitable.
Oh, okay.
That's one that I read. It's a pretty new book. It just came out in 2016.
Ross, Jason Lemkin, yep.
Yeah. And I don't know if this wouldn't be a good book for my customers to read, because it's very focused on SaaS sales, but it's one that's probably been the most influential to me in the past year and a half or so.
Okay.
That's a good book. I think it came out about a year ago, actually. But it
was almost exactly a year.
For some reason, I can never remember the name. From Impossible to Inevitable. Yeah. But it's really, they've got some really great thoughts in there that I really enjoyed reading about.
Okay. Yeah. Good book. Recommended. So, last question is, what music's on your playlist these days?
What music's on my playlist? Well, I listen to Pandora because I don't love, I haven't had, I've always wanted to curate playlists and spend a ton of time having every perfect playlist for every mood or type of music that I want to listen to. And I never do that. So I just instead let Pandora do it for me. And
so what type?
I listened to the Chains, the last month or so. I've been listening to the Chainsmokers a lot lately. Mm-hmm. Other things that I listen to, I listen to a lot of Dave Matthews Band.
Dave Matthews, gosh.
Yeah, from back in the day.
Back in the day.
Little Dragon.
Okay.
So those are kind of
good stuff.
And I do a lot of classic rock as well. So depending on mood, I've got different things that I like to listen to.
Well, excellent. Well, Steve, thanks very much for joining me today. So tell folks how they can find out more about Badger Mapping or connect with you.
Well, I mean, the best place to so we have a free trial, and I'm happy to extend a 2 free months to your listeners, just as kind of a bonus for having listened to us ramble on for this long.
Oh, excellent.
Just mention this, mention the name of the name here of the podcast, and just say, oh, I heard about this on the Accelerate podcast, and I'll instruct our team to apply 2 free months to your account. And there's a free trial as well, so you don't have to sign up to try this stuff out. But if you're in field sales, this shaves a lot of time and saves a lot of energy and helps you perform better. So it's check it out. The best place is just check it out on the website and sign up for a free trial, and our reps will kind of set it all up for you and get you going.
All right, perfect. Well, good, Steve. Again, thanks again. And friends, thank you for spending this time with us today. Please join us again tomorrow. Until then, I'd really appreciate if you went to iTunes and subscribed, left a review for Accelerate, because I want to hear what you have to say, whether it's good or bad. And if you take a screenshot of your review and email it to me at reviews@accelerate.fm, I'll send you a free digital copy of my award-winning book, 0 Time Selling, 10 Essential Steps to Accelerate Every Company's Sales. So thanks again for joining me. And until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.